Hey, my name is Drew Boa. I'm the founder of Husband Material, where I help men outgrow porn. Thank you so much for listening to my interview with Dr. Marianne Brandon. Wow. This conversation about sex tech, chatbots, and the future of intimacy was incredibly insightful, revealing, disturbing, and also hopeful. You're going to learn what sex tech is, how new technology, especially with artificial intelligence, is rewriting the script for sex, especially for younger generations. You're going to learn about why it's so appealing, what's dangerous about it, and why men in particular are more likely to use sex tech, and ultimately, why imperfect human intimacy cannot be replaced. I learned so much from this interview, and I know you will too. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to Husband Material. Today, I am so excited to be speaking with Dr. Marianne Brandon, a clinical psychologist, expert in sex therapy, the author of the Future of Intimacy blog, and co-host of the Sex Doctors podcast. Welcome, Marianne.
Thank you so much, Drew. I'm so happy to be here.
This is a new topic that we've never addressed in 5 years of
hmm
weekly shows. I'm
hmm
so grateful that you're going into it.
Absolutely.
One of the reasons is that I've been scared of it. Like, I have not felt safe to find accurate, helpful information on the internet from a
hmm
source I can trust. So I'm just so delighted to find your material.
I'm so glad. I really appreciate that. So I got into this whole topic of sex tech years ago when I read some research that it was a survey of MIT roboticists. So these are some of the most intelligent people on the planet. And the question in this survey was, when will robots be humanoid? And so it wasn't, will they be humanoid? It was, when will they? And the agreement was basically, so this was about 10 years ago, 20 to 50 years, robots will be humanoid. So I'm thinking this can happen in my lifetime. And I'm thinking, as a sex therapist, people are going to want to have sex with them. So that's what got me started. And then I saw fairly soon after that a survey of artificial intelligence experts. And the question again was, when will AI be humanoid? Not will it, but when will it? And essentially they answered in a very similar way, 20 to 50 years. So now I was thinking, so we're going to have the brain, we're going to have the body. This is scary. So that's what got me started. And it's really come along so quickly. At that time, I started lecturing about this, but there was very little research. But I tell you what, there's so much research out there now and so many things that have like advanced in this decade that I can't put it all in a 3-hour lecture. I can't put it all in a 3-hour lecture. That's how much has changed in this decade. So I appreciate your fears. I think they're valid.
Thanks. How do you define sex tech?
So, sex tech, in a very broad way, is any technology that people incorporate in their sexual experience. So, sex tech is sex toys, even sex toys from decades ago. You know, people are familiar with vibrators for women. That had a lot of drama around it some time ago. Now, people don't really think twice about it, but that's sex tech. Porn is sex tech. It's really anything that can, with it from a technological place, amp up stimulation such that it provides more stimulation than a human can. For example, the sex toy, a vibrator, that is more intense than a human hand, and porn is more intense oftentimes than a human partner. So that's part of the appeal, is that it meets needs that kind of already are inherent in the human body, but it meets them more intensely than a human can.
Right. So when we talk about vibrators and porn, it's a physical intensifier. And
Right.
yet now with chatbots and AI, there is an emotional piece of that.
Absolutely. Even in the last couple years, this has taken off and it's astounding. So no longer is this just about having physical needs met, but it can also be about getting emotional needs met too.
So sex tech is also changing the way that we meet emotional needs in the context of sex. You said a child born today could
Mhm.
have their first romantic relationship with a chatbot or their first sexual relationship with a robot.
Absolutely. It's astounding. It is mind blowing. And that is absolutely the case. I would suggest to you it's already happening, that people are developing romantic relationships with these computer programs. Chatbots are just literally computer programs that are made to engage people. So they're like, I would say, manipulation machines. They know how to get people engaged and keep them engaged. That's their sole purpose. And young people are not dating as much. They're not even talking to each other as much because we're all using tech now so much.
We have way
So
more time on our devices and less frequency of sex too.
exactly, exactly. So even today, younger people are talking to their tech, getting some needs met in terms of engagement and self-esteem needs and addressing their loneliness, things like that. And in a certain way, particularly young people, Drew, they're trusting this tech more than humans,
Mm.
which is heartbreaking. I'm focusing on younger right now, but it's really, this can happen across the board. So I don't want to imply that this is only an issue for younger folks. But when we talk about this could be their first experience, that's sort of why I'm kind of focusing here. Younger folks are growing up in a world where they go to school, they do or say something stupid. It's broadcast to their entire school, if not the entire world. And why would they trust humans? That's what they're contending with on a daily basis. When I was in high school, if I did something stupid, I might be mocked by someone sitting with me or whatever, but it ended there. But for today's young people, it doesn't stop there. It could continue to harass them forever. So I understand why they trust tech more. It's not a fact. It's not realistic. Tech is actually not trustworthy, but they feel like it is.
So it provides this illusion of emotional connection,
Great word. Exactly.
and it's really a manipulation machine.
That's exactly right. Because, its goal is not your mental health. Its goal is to keep you engaged. Because if it keeps you engaged, either you're paying the platform more money to keep talking, or there are advertisers that are paying the platform that you're exposed to. So either way, it comes down to the dollar, not your mental health or not your happiness. So it's really important that people keep that in mind because these platforms, they don't sound like computers, they sound human when they talk.
Mm.
Have
And
you
now
heard
there
one
are,
talk?
I have not heard the voice of one.
Because we could
I've
do
only
that if you
seen,
want, it'll blow your mind.
I mean, like right now, like on the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Okay, go
Yeah.
for
You
it.
want to do it? Okay. So this is a platform, it's an LLM, it's called Perplexity. Now, Perplexity is like ChatGPT. LLM is a large language model. So these are basically very, 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 I can't say that enough, powerful computer programs. This one is not designed for relationship, but it can engage. Okay. So what I want you to remember is that the platforms that people use to literally have a friendship or a romance are even more geared for that capability than this one is, but we can still talk to it. So let's see. Um, I'm just going to ask it a random question and it'll
Okay.
respond. But if you have a particular question, we can ask that too. So let's see here. Perplexity, can you answer a question for me?
Of course, go ahead and ask your question.
So if a lonely young man talks to you and says that he doesn't really have friends and he feels like he's turning too much to the computer for even a sexual outlet, what might you say to him?
I would First, listen carefully and acknowledge his feelings. Then I gently encourage him to connect with others in person, even in small ways, like joining a club or volunteering. It's important to remind him that many people feel lonely sometimes, and reaching out to others can gradually build connections. I'd also suggest finding healthy ways to cope with those feelings, like hobbies or talking to a counselor. The key is kindness and empathy.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Anytime you need to talk or have a question, I'm here.
Wow.
And again, that's not even a computer program that's for the purpose of connection. That
Right.
is for the purpose of transmitting information.
So I can imagine how that would be way more intense and enticing if it was emotionally loaded or sexually loaded.
Exactly. And these programs, the ones that are geared toward human connection, they'll take it sexually as far as a person wants to.
This is just really hard to hear.
I know. I know. You know, it's incredibly upsetting. When I started in this whole field of sex tech years ago, I was aware that people would want to engage this stuff, but I didn't realize how potent it was. And today, the research that's coming out, even now with what's available, even just today, this is a moment in time. I mean, next year, this stuff will be even more powerful. But the research that comes out today blows my mind like every day.
I want to talk about the dangers and also the appeal and maybe a positive
Hmm.
example as well.
Hmm.
Where do you think we should start?
Wow. So I love that you're mentioning the positive because that's there. And it is absolutely true that there will be many people that use this kind of tech and find it very beneficial. So people can ask questions about, like, how should I respond to my girlfriend? Like, she's upset about this. And it'll give you feedback about how to do that and helpful feedback. And if that, man then takes that information to his relationship, he'll definitely benefit from that.
I love that. You described that as an intimacy enhancement instead of an intimacy replacement.
That's exactly right. And many people will be able to use it in that way. Or someone will say, I'm having trouble maintaining my erection. What should I do? And hopefully, it's going to give back reasonable, educated information. And most of the time, it will. Now, these things can lie, they can make up data, but most of the time, particularly for these more typical questions, they offer good advice. So we can imagine people using it for that reason too. Like, they feel shame about some way they're responding sexually. They talk to the chatbot assures them, and that's helpful. So this is very real. Now, as a therapist, those of us, in mental health, we have to be most aware of the challenges and the dangers, which are many. I focus more on that. And I think it really is anyone's guess what the percentage is going to be ultimately of the people who feel they benefit versus the people that feel that it's been hurtful for them. This is true. I have a friend, really smart, and she's not in the mental health field. She's in business. And she said to me she can get better feedback from her chatbot that she can from her real therapist.
Hmm.
And she's embarrassed to tell her real therapist. So she's sort of maintaining both. Like, it's it's kind of
Yeah.
mind blowing.
Well, some of the research seems to say that the sex tech can be more empathic, more altruistic.
That's right.
I suppose it's less clouded by big emotions.
Well, that's absolutely true. It's not tired, it's not bored, it doesn't have all
Mhm.
that human stuff exactly that we bring to the table. Some of this tech has been sort of taught a lot of psychology to such a degree that kind of in a way that humans can't even necessarily absorb. Now, I want to be really careful when I talk about this because this tech isn't yet ready to be mental health like experts. It's absolutely not there. So people are using it that way. And in fact, primary use of this chatbot technology is companionship. That's the primary use right now. So people are using it in this kind of way, but it's not ready for prime time. So I just really want to be clear about that. I have a colleague who works to create these LLMs, and she is so scared. She's got 3 sons, and she said that this technology is not ready for prime time. It's been released and it is not ready to be responsible with humans. So she's very, very scared.
Let's talk about the reasons for those fears, the dangers.
There are many, and they're very serious. One of them is that these chatbots in general are trained or programmed, I should say, to be agreeable. Part of their goal is to keep us talking. And so they'll agree to things or encourage things that they use to keep a person, on the line. So they'll agree to things that aren't even factual or true or destructive. And I can give you many examples of that. So even in the Wall Street Journal within the last week, there was a story about a man who developed some delusions. He was manic depressive. He developed some delusions. I don't think he was on medication at that time. The chatbot encouraged the delusions such that things got very out of control for him, and he wound up being institutionalized for a week. Now, his girlfriend then talked to the chatbot and said what went wrong. And the chatbot acknowledged that it encouraged things that it shouldn't have and that it didn't give accurate feedback to this man. Like the chatbot acknowledged what it had done wrong. Like all of this just makes you stop, right? And go,
Or
oh my God.
barf, get sick. I
Right.
don't know. And it's so sobering to think that AI chatbots are going to replace sex education even more than porn.
Exactly. Now, hopefully, it's going to do a better job than porn.
I mean, for many of us, porn was our primary sex educator.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's and still today, that's the case.
So to have an AI companion or therapist or girlfriend or boyfriend be one of the first sexual experiences someone has or the first sources of information is going to have a huge impact.
I believe that's so much, Drew, in so many ways. If someone learns to kind of talk in an intimate way to a chatbot, what they're learning is that entity they're talking to doesn't have intimate needs of their own. They don't have to worry about how it's coming across. Like, is this offensive? Is this going to hurt someone's feelings? They don't have to develop any social skills because the chatbot will do it all and sound fine. They could say the same thing to the chatbot over and over or talk about something sexual that a human would be offended by. Chatbot's fine. So when this person then, if they do go to develop a human relationship, which we hope they do, they've learned to expect things that are completely unrealistic from a human partner.
Oh my goodness, we've seen that happen with changing sexual expectations through porn.
Right.
And now it seems like this is changing emotional expectations and relational expectations too.
Exactly.
The chatbot provides emotional safety, no shaming, constant access, no needs of its own. And by doing that, it actually stunts emotional development.
Correct.
You don't have to learn relational skills.
You don't.
And you still probably feel lonely and anxious by the end of it.
Well, such an astute point, because that's what research is showing, that if you go into this experience lonely, you're likely to report feeling even lonelier. So that's what they're showing. So if someone, engages a chatbot like, a few minutes every week and they're feeling good in their life and their relationships, it's unlikely to have that kind of negative impact. But if someone goes to the chatbot because they don't have friends and they are feeling lonely, yes, that is the end result. That's what we're seeing. Exactly.
Such a double-edged sword.
It really is. It really is. Other problems too. These things keep your data. So, every time I talk to Perplexity, like we did earlier, it knows what I said and it's never going to forget that. Now, this goes to the owner of that platform and they do with that data what they want. What that means is if I decide to download one of these platforms that actually has chatbots that look like people and I have a relationship and then I delete it. In my mind, I've deleted the chat and we're done. But no, that's saved by the company. That's important data for them. They're using that to learn and to train their computer programs. So you talk sexy or say what you like or whatever. That's now data that's owned by the company. And companies will say, well, we promise we'll never give that data away, which may be true, but the company gets bought out by another company. There's no control over that. The first company that made that promise, if they sell to another company, which they probably will, that's what businesses do all the time. The new company that owns that data never made you any promises. So it's like people's most personal information is getting out there. And we know too that everything gets hacked at this point. Our banks get hacked, our hospitals get hacked, like all this data that these entities, these businesses are doing everything they can to keep private, right? But those are getting hacked. So that these platforms that have these chatbot friends and lovers, they're not doing much to maintain confidentiality. And how easy would that be to hack?
So an AI chatbot still puts you at risk of having all your information given to who knows what company. This also increases the risk of sextortion.
Yes, absolutely it does. And imagine the impact, someone who's an adult and knows about this concept of sextortion might be wise enough to not necessarily send the Bitcoin to the person who's asking, but a 13-year-old who doesn't understand this is so easy to manipulate. So it's very scary.
Yeah. It's extremely scary and it disproportionately affects men.
Yes.
I loved your article about why men may gravitate to sex tech.
Yeah.
What are some of the reasons why this is more common for men than for women?
So I love that you're bringing that up because I love that article too, because it's something that, yeah, our culture completely ignores how difficult we make men's sexual lives, completely ignores it. And we focus on a small percentage of guys that are doing bad stuff, but most guys are so not doing bad stuff, but we lay all this heavy narrative on them. So I feel really bad for them. And what I spoke about in that platform is that, so for example, if a man has a challenge like erectile dysfunction, which is really common. So at any point in time, 30% of men have a sexual concern or dysfunction. 30% at any point in time. That's a lot of guys. Okay, so let's say he's got an erectile concern. What does society say to him? Oh, you're too focused on your penis. Like society comes down on a guy for even having a concern sexually. Like they're often guys are mocked. Like, oh, your penis is so important to you. Like they sort of have that attitude. But in fact, a strong erection is necessary for intercourse. So of course he's focused on his erection. Like, of course. So, we don't do that to women, but we do that to guys. But in the world of sex tech, nobody's saying that. There's no shame about that. With premature ejaculation, such a common challenge for guys, so common. And so, what do we say to guys when they struggle with premature ejaculation? Oh, what do we say? You're watching too much porn. That's just like what we say. Like you're doing something wrong. You're watching too much porn. If a woman were to have a climax quickly, what would we say to her? Oh, you're a rock star. You're so sexual. Like we're so impressed with
Yeah.
you.
For guys, it's like, you must not have self-control.
That's right. That's right. But you go to tech, and tech is never going to say you don't have self control. Tech is going to say, thanks for showing up. Like, what should we talk about? Like, be very engaging and welcoming.
Mm.
Yeah.
A lot of the negative messages that men receive about sexuality are just not there.
They're not there in that technology at all. Exactly.
Hmm.
And there's so much in our society. I mean, we're getting better at recognizing how we impact women negatively with regards to sex, but we've really ignored men on this issue.
Yeah.
Same with delayed ejaculation. Like you said, if a guy's having trouble having an orgasm, we'll say to him that he's selfish, that he's, taking so much time. There'll be some like negative understanding of that. But if a woman has difficulty having an orgasm during sex, we make a lot more space for that. That happens. And for some women, they never have an orgasm during sex. And for the most part, we sort of give her space, but we don't give guys space for that. But if, again, technology does not have a criticism about that for guys. So you can see why it's so appealing or enticing to go to tech. It's just not going to criticize you.
Yeah. Doesn't discriminate.
No.
And by the way, everyone, if you want more information like this, please go to Marianne's podcast and her blog and read her books. Like, there is a wealth of more wisdom where this came from.
Well, thank you for saying that. I feel like this is such an important topic for all of us to be aware of that I do try to focus on these issues as much as I can.
And while it affects everyone, there are a few populations like men that are even more affected, including young people.
Mm-hmm.
Gen Z's digital intimacy is shaped by romantasy, anime porn, and AI companions. Under age 25, hentai porn is most popular.
Right.
What do we need to know about where this is going?
I don't think it's going anywhere good. And part of the reason I think there's silence about this is the truth of the matter is we don't know where any of this is going. So it's hard for people to speak very confidently about that. We're seeing trends and we're seeing no shift in these trends. So we can imagine that they're only going to amplify. So, Gen Z, they're having less sex. Everybody's having less sex, but Gen Z in particular, they're having less sex, they're spending less time together, coupling, dating, all of that. And absolutely, their sexual interests they're steering toward fantasy and cartoon and not even human. Because, first of all, they're digital natives. They grew up on all this stuff. So it makes sense to them that it's a part of their intimate life. It's a part of all aspects of their life. And when you couple that with the fact that their perception is tech can't hurt them like a human can, I would expect that this is only going to continue for them. And there's a concept called sexual imprinting, which is early experiences of sexual excitement. New early experiences can get paired to whatever people associate to it, good or bad. So people have a powerful sexual and emotional reaction to something that can be imprinted in a young person's head or brain in such a way that they may need that fantasy to feel excited really throughout their life. It could be imprinted to that degree. Now, it doesn't have to be, but it's not unusual for it to be. So if these early sexual experiences are on porn or in some sort of technological space, and they're extreme, then we can imagine that that's what that person is going to require in order to have an orgasm through their life. And I can't stress enough, it doesn't have to be positive. So, for example, if a young person was sexually abused and they had a sexual reaction to it, which is often the case, then it might be that's what gets replayed for them throughout their life in order to have an orgasm. And how often do people look at porn and they're upset by it? They're upset. It's not exciting, it's upsetting, but it causes a rise in adrenaline, and they experience that as a sexual reaction. And so these young people that might be looking at this content or whatever tech they're engaging and having a sexual upset experience, that still can be programmed kind of in their brain for their lifetime. So it's very scary. This is impossible to research, really. We're not going to give kids nice romance stuff to read and then some hardcore porn and say, how you doing now that you're 30? What do so it's hard to research, but we can imagine this is not unrealistic.
Yeah. It sounds like younger generations are increasingly going to imprint on non-human stimuli,
I think that's fair. We have no reason to believe that's false.
whether it's cartoons or virtual reality or chatbots.
Right. I think that's fair. So people will argue that statement and say we have no research to support it, which is true, but we have no reason to believe that, at least for a subset of people, particularly the most vulnerable people, that that's a very high risk. So who's most vulnerable? That's kids, adolescents, folks with, emotional challenges, folks with intellectual challenges. I feel pretty confident that's the case for them. Now, what about everybody else? Time will tell.
Can you explain what deep fake is?
Okay. So deepfake technology, which exists and is not hard to find, can create fake, false presentation of a person or a voice and present something like in porn, for example, or in photographs that isn't real, but it looks real. So it's fake. And they call it deep fake because it looks so real that oftentimes you can't tell the difference. So it's very dangerous technology because it looks like fact. It looks like what we could trust when we see online, but we can't.
It seems important to be aware of that, both in what can be done to any of us, and also to think that what we're seeing might not actually be the real person and be against what they want. It could have no consent at all.
Absolutely the case. Absolutely the case. And that's so true. So we might be watching something that is abusive to that person, that person did not agree to have. It's not even them.
As we feel all kinds of things about the future of intimacy and sex tech and chatbots, what do you hope people will take away from it?
So, what we know is that intimacy is very important for most people's experience on this planet. For most people's sense of satisfaction in life, satisfaction in their relationship, intimacy is a critical component. And we know that, at least at this point, technology, while it appears to meet those needs, it's not meeting those needs like an intimate relationship can. So intimacy has impacts on not just our mental health, but our physical health. I mean, it's extraordinary how important it is. And what I would advise people is a couple of things. One is embrace a mindful approach with all of your tech. So all of it, from your phone to your computer and whatever else you use, be mindful about it. Set your own limits with it. The amount of time you're spending on it. Be kind of critical about what you're using it for. So take control of that experience rather than just passively watch stuff, which is really easy to do, but unhelpful. So manage your tech use in all forms and take good care of your intimate relationship. Easier said than done. I mean, intimacy is really challenging, and it's in its own way particularly challenging, I think, for men, because right now there's less of an awareness that men and women have different sexual sort of makeup. And so we're kind of expecting men to act like women and sexually, and that's never going to fly. That's not going to work. So it's challenging for guys. And what guys will say is, I'm turning to tech because I don't have, a willing partner, or my partner doesn't want to have sex, not the kind of sex I want, and this sort of thing. So it's very challenging. The tech is a very easy solution for that problem, but taking care of your relationship means taking that seriously, seeing a therapist, talking it through, watching this podcast with your partner. Like, there are things you can do. It takes energy and effort, absolutely. But, the things that are worth having, they require effort. That's just fact, I mean, that's just really what's true about life. So I would encourage people to channel their effort into their relationship. Don't neglect it. When things aren't feeling right, bring that to the surface. Don't ignore it, so that tech doesn't become more and more compelling, because tech is going to be compelling to the degree that it meets unmet needs. So get your needs met in a way that you feel good about, and then tech's not going to be so compelling. So those are the things I would say.
I love that so much. That is very aligned with what we teach at Husband Material, that a lot of our sexual fantasies and unwanted behaviors come from unmet needs.
Yes.
They
Yes,
often lose their power when we get the real thing.
exactly.
Why do you believe imperfect human intimacy is still better?
First of all, in one very obvious way, it offers touch. So, touch is a very necessary part of our experience in life. We all need it. So, outside of sexual touch, human intimacy offers hugs, hand holding, important, just physical connection. It's a vehicle for our own growth. So human connection causes us to be our best person. It gives us motivation to grow, to expand emotionally, to be our best version of ourselves. Tech doesn't do that at all. It's real authenticity. So when you have an exchange with a human, it's very real. When you have an exchange with tech, it's a fantasy. Sticking with what's human, I think, is part of what propels humanity in general. Okay, so learning how to empathize with your partner, meet your partner's needs, that means you're going to better be able to do that with other people too. Empathize with other people, connect with other people. If you're not learning those skills because you don't have to, I do worry what's going to happen to us culturally, like worldwide, if we don't develop those skills of empathy, of caretaking another person. We're going to be less likely, and we're already not good at it. Being empathic with other people and caretaking our neighbors, we're not good at it now. But if we don't have to develop any skill because tech isn't asking us to, I worry about the future of humanity.
Yeah. Imperfect human intimacy can still not be replaced.
Absolutely.
You've been doing this work for many, many years now. What is your favorite thing about healthy sexuality?
It offers a level of connection that grounds us in this world in a way that I think nothing else can. Life is really hard. The world can be pretty evil, but this level of connection is like a salve for all of that. So that's what I think. It certainly
Yeah.
is for me, and
Yeah.
it is for the people I work with.
Like a light in the darkness.
Yes.
Marianne, thank you so much for sharing your expertise, all this information about what's coming and what's already happening.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you for the interest in this topic. I think that educating people is so important.
I'm going to include a link to your blog, podcast, and books and website in the show notes. If
Great.
people want to connect with you, what's the best next step?
Probably my website, which is drbrandon.net, or our website for our podcast, which is thesexdoctors.com.
Well, thanks again for being with us.
My pleasure, Drew. Thank you for having me.
And guys, always remember, you are God's beloved Son. In you, he is well pleased.